The Ferrari 296 was launched in 2021 to move Ferrari towards a whole new era of hybrid supercar. Since its launch, it's been plagued with negative press and unstable resale values. Well, today we're going to skip all that negative history and we're going to focus on the Ferrari 296 as a driving machine. Does it have that Ferrari driving essence? Does it drive like a Ferrari? Well, today we're at Black Mountain Pass in Wales amongst this really inclement weather, and we're going to seek to answer that very question. Welcome to the Ferrari 296. Driving a Lamborghini Miura. Today's video is presented in partnership with Hampson Auctions, one of the UK's leading classic, performance and supercar auction houses. Their next sale takes place on the 28th of September at the magnificent Bolesworth Castle in Cheshire. For your complimentary valuation for sale and entry into one of their auctions, please use the contact details below for a prompt response. First of all, we're going to take the car out. We're going to do some internal ergonomics on this section of road that we're going to be driving up towards Black Mountain Pass. When we get to Black Mountain Pass, then we're going to do the proper driving review of the 296. But first of all, let's talk about the ergonomics, and we're going to set off from the car parking space where we are and give you some details of the internal cabin of this car. First of all, push the start stop. Then we're going to put it into performance mode on the e-Manatino, and then fire up that V6 motor. First of all, switch it out of auto mode into manual, so we're using the paddles. It's a bit damp at the moment, so we've got to be careful, but we're just talking about the internal ergonomics of the car first of all. So when we get onto the driving section, hopefully a bit drier on Black Mountain Pass, which is the infamous Top Gear section. So first impressions inside the 296, plenty of leg room. I'm 6'1". Most of my length of my body and most of my height is in my legs, and I've got plenty of room in the footwell here in the 296. This car's got a £6,000 carbon seats option, and they are quite aggressive. Literally, it's just pads on top of the carbon fibre, and they hold you really well. The only thing I would say about them is that they hold you, for me, that's quite wide, and for my son that's quite wide as well, on the upper body, it's a bit too snug around the lats, around the upper part of your shoulders, and that could be a bit annoying after a lot of mileage, but it's not annoying at the moment for the distance that we've been driving, so it's fine. I've got to be careful for sheep where I'm driving at the moment because we're over in Wales. So the seats are comfortable, and this has got the electric lift option on the seats as well, and that makes a lot of difference. But the paddle on that, interestingly, is broken. The side paddle, it helps you adjust the switch or use the switch, so that's got to be repaired. But the seats do elevate up and down, so it enables you to get into a very good driving position. And the steering wheel adjusts fore and aft and up and down, so again you can get into a very good position for steering, to hold the steering wheel, which is vitally important, especially in a Ferrari. The internal ergonomics are very good. With regards to the dash, the visibility that you have out of the dashboard, you've got fairly thin A-pillars, which give you good visibility from the B-pillars forward. With regards to the rear, you've got good visibility through the rear over the engine cover, through the rear view mirror. The door mirrors give you good visibility as well. They're quite well shaped and styled nicely, but they're shaped to give you good visibility to the rear, and of course you can see them LM250 rear haunches on the back. The view over the front of the car, you've got the haunches on the front fenders, and those give you a good cue point to be able to steer the car and to be able to guide the car. And because the car is better ergonomically designed with regards to its size, in effect it's a lot smaller footprint, it's a lot easier to place with regards to those front sections on the front wings. Now we get onto the sticky position of the steering wheel controls. They're touch controls, and they use these haptics, this touch control touchpads. Can't get away from it. It's bloody awful. Navigating through to switch off the ADAS system, it's very hit and miss with regards to navigating through the trackpad, and you can accidentally touch this trackpad and bring the menu system up, and it takes your attention away from driving the car and away from the road, and that's dangerous. There's no two ways about it. It's dangerous. So that isn't good. You have an option on the screen where you can put it into max view mode, which is great for GPS navigation. You get a full screen worth of map and GPS navigation, so that's fantastic from that point of view. Obviously, you've got your Apple CarPlay, which integrates your phone directly in with the screen system and with navigation, so that's very, very good. With regards to the information that the screens display and provide for you, it's a wealth of information. You get very, very good details from the screen system, but the trouble is, using the trackpad to be able to switch between the screens is just hell. You've got to wake the system up, first of all, then you've got to swipe between it, and meanwhile I'm looking partly at the screens and not at what I'm doing with regards to the road. And to go into home, you press the home button, and then you have to wake the system back up again, press it back into home, and you see I ain't got a clue where I am on this map system now. It's the trackpad gives you all these options, but it's just too much. It's just too much and too complicated. Too much and too complicated. I haven't got a clue where it is. I have to keep pressing home, and eventually if you keep pressing the home button, it does take you back to the home screen, and then you can swipe to get to a different screen configuration. But where the hell I am in the screen system, God only knows. Thankfully you press the home button and it will take you back to the home screen. So that's the screen layout. With regards to switching everything off in ADAS, you have to first of all, wake up the trackpad system, press the home button, then from there you swipe down to get to settings, and then from there you go into the ADAS system, ADAS setup, and then from there you can switch everything off as I have here. But it's a real pain in the backside, and it's something that you've got to do before you set off, and then you just press home and you go back to the beginning screen. If I press the View Max button, you'll see the screen will go to full screen satellite navigation, which is very, very good. I must admit, I really do like that full screen mode. But the trouble is, it then prevents you from seeing a lot of other very useful information, a lot of other car statistics. So you take your choice, really, Hobson's choice, as they say, and you're continually having to wake the trackpad system up and then press the home screen to get it back to where you were before. Yeah, painful. With regards to the internal dash layout, this car has full leather dashboard. Beneath the dash you have black Alcantara, which has been optioned for this car. You have a screen on the left hand side, which is a passenger view screen, which is very, very useful, but again that's been optioned on this particular 296. The rest of the ergonomics of the cabin is very good. You've got these controls down the center console that allow you to switch from auto to manual, and also to switch into reverse, which is just using that 7.45 kilowatt electric motor in reverse mode. These center switches are very reminiscent of the old legacy clickety-clack, if you like, Ferrari gateway, Ferrari gear gateway. You've got the ability to switch into electric only reverse mode, and then auto or manual for the driving mode. With regards to the L, I have no idea what that's for, and I'm not going to press it just in case it does something weird while I'm driving. Currently it's raining at the moment, so we've got the windscreen wipers in auto mode, so you'll see the screen be wiped every now and again. Last point I'd like to mention is that if this car fails on its electric capability, if its electric system fails, you're screwed, because to open the door, you've got an electric button. So you can't even get out of the car if the system electrics fail. And the system is so governed on electrics, that could be a major problem if there's a fault. But with regards to seating position, visibility, and general ergonomics and driving position, it's fantastic. Absolutely love it. And I say, for me being 6'1", I've got plenty of headroom and plenty of leg room, and I'm very comfortable in these raised carbon seats, apart from the fact that it does fit me a bit too snugly on the upper shoulder section. But a great place to be. We're here on Black Mountain Pass and the weather is finally playing ball, and we're going to give you a quick walk around of this stunning Ferrari 296. First of all, you'll see design cues from the SF90 in the front headlight styling. Not quite the same, but just subtly enough to show you the similar heritage. You've obviously got the good old parking sensors on the front, and these are extruded out a little bit because the front comes out a little bit further. So of course these have to pull out a little bit further as well to cover the front. You've got the front grille section again with parking sensors. This adds to some of the real sublime styling for the 296. Coming back around the side view and side section, you've got the aerodynamics coming across the front, and providing into this air intake for this V6 twin turbo hybrid. And this of course is very much styled around the LM250, the infamous 250 LM that competed in 6 24-hour races and won the 1965 Le Mans. Coming around to the back, this is one of my favourite viewpoints of the 296. I think it has a stunning rear section. That diffuser looks really menacing. The exhaust output looks really like a gaping mouth, like it's really pushing out some fire-breathing performance. And of course, when you lift up the engine lid, you've got that V6 twin-turbo hybrid power plant. The combustion engine alone pushes out 654 brake horsepower and 546 pound-foot of torque. There's an electric motor situated between the gearbox and the engine, which pushes out 165 brake horsepower and 232 pound-foot of torque. That will scream this 296 from 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds and has a top speed in excess of 205 miles per hour. And this only weighs 1,650 kilograms. That's only 85 kilograms heavier than, for example, a 458 Italia. So it's not that heavy in curb weight, and I think it's got around 655 brake horsepower per ton, which is in excess of a Bugatti Veyron. So this delivers better performance to the road than a Bugatti Veyron, would you believe it? And this drives absolutely sublime, as you will find out in the next section, where we drive it around Black Mountain Pass to show you the performance driving dynamics of this stunning 296. The exterior of the 296 is spec'd resplendent in Rosso Corsa, so it's standard specification pretty much on the outside. Moving to the interior, we have quite a few options. We have the carbon steering wheel with the LED rev lights. We have carbon race seats, and you can see these are very harsh, or they seem very harsh. You pretty much just have padding on top of the carbon seats. You can pull this strap and the seats fold forward, which is really cool and gives you this access to this rear, not parcel shelf, but this rear netting for storage access, which you can see we're using there, which is quite useful. Pulling the seats forward, you can see again you've got this beautiful stunning carbon racing seats, and you've got this optioned red section down the center of the seats, and the center of the seats are in Alcantara, which again is an optional extra. Optional extra 2 is the lower section of the dash, which is in Alcantara, and the front section of the center console in carbon fiber, again optional extra. In addition, you've got these carbon fiber center sections in the dashboard, again extra options, and the actual passenger display, again optional extra. Everything with Ferrari is an optional extra. Just to talk you through a few of the extra options, if we elevate back up again outside, I've got now here the specification of this particular car and the extras, and I'm just going to point out some of the options. So you've got Apple CarPlay, £2,500, would you believe it? You've got yellow calipers, £1,350, dash inserts, carbon fiber, as I've already discussed, just those little dash inserts, £3,000, viewers. Suspension lifter, £3,400, ka-ching. You've got the My Ferrari Connect readiness, no cost, but then that's just connection to an application. Your carbon fibre steering wheel with LEDs, £3,000. You've got the racing seat lifter. Now that's because these racing seats, it's got an electric lift system, which I talk about or will talk about as I drive the car. That alone is £1,500. The carbon fibre racing seats, £6,000. Absolutely impressive options list, and you can see how when you start speccing these options up on these cars, it really increases the price. To say this is £241,000 standard, no options. You start pushing options up on these, and these cars were well over £300,000, but you can now get them for around £210,000 with around 5,000 to 8,000 miles on the clock. Absolutely incredible value for an 819 brake horsepower hybrid supercar. We're here in Wales on Black Mountain Pass. Welcome to the Ferrari 296 driving review. The Ferrari 296 is the first V6 based supercar since they launched the whole supercar range back in 1968 with the Dino 206. And yes, it was branded a Dino, but the engine was designed and built by Ferrari, and the car was styled by Pininfarina, and for all intents and purposes it was a Ferrari. There's been a lot of backlash because Ferrari implemented a V6 in the 296, but a lot of people forget that the whole supercar range is built on or was started with that 206, which then became the 246, etc. A lot of people believe that the Ferrari's supercar range should have a V8, but they did actually start off with a V6. The 296 is based around a V6 twin-turbo hybrid power plant. The V6 combustion engine pushes out 654 brake horsepower and 546 pound-foot of torque, and there's a 7.45 kilowatt electric motor which sits between the engine and gearbox, which pushes out 165 brake horsepower and 232 pound-foot of torque. And combined, they will scream the Ferrari 296 from 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds and has a top speed of in excess 205 miles per hour. Combined, the performance figures of the Ferrari 296 is 819 brake horsepower. That is flipping astonishing. And it's all pushed out to the road with rear wheel drive on 2 wheels. And you can feel it when you're driving the car, but the electronics really seek to stabilize the car and really keep that performance in check. The Ferrari 296 has a launch price of £241,000. You can now pick them up for around £210,000 for the GTB. Now you think, okay, that's not that much drop in value, but it actually is, because the £241,000 when it was launched is before options, and these cars were spec'd commonly up to over £300,000. So these cars have dropped around £100,000 since launch in 2021. That's incredible value now for these cars. Just driving around this well-known sharp corner on Black Mountain Pass. You can feel that performance really kick in. Now, a lot of the styling of the Ferrari 296 was derived from the heritage of the LM250. The LM250 infamously won Le Mans in 1965, and I believe it's famous for competing in 6 24-hour races. It's the only Ferrari to achieve that goal. You can really see the cues and styling of the Ferrari LM250 when you look at the rear haunches, because the rear haunches and rear corner section is based around that LM250 rear haunch section. But even though this car is pushing out 819 brake horsepower, it really pushes that performance out well. It's really meted out well throughout all the 8-speed dual clutch transmission gears. And it seems to just be glued to the road. Yes, I'm not going crazy, and obviously I'm not accelerating hard coming out of corners. You're an idiot if you do that with an 819 brake horsepower supercar, especially when it's all being pushed out through the rear wheels. But the electronics really seek to stabilize that performance. And I'm currently driving this 296 on Black Mountain Pass in sport mode, and I've got the e-Manatino set to performance. Now I'm not going to push it into race mode at all because it's damp road conditions, and we've got 819 brake horsepower being pushed out through the rear wheels. You have to be crazy to put your foot down in this sort of weather, especially not on a track. 890 brake horsepower really isn't fit to be used on the roads, especially when it's pushed through the rear wheels. The sound of the 296 is very impressive and really stomps all over the sound of the outgoing F8 and the previous 488. Even though it's a twin turbo V6, they've done some crazy impressive engineering to be able to create the sound of what they call a Piccolo V12, and it really does sound impressive. And yes, they're using a perception of a sound box, which isn't false, it is the proper exhaust, but it's like an exhaust sound box that they use to pipe the sound into the cabin of the car, and you can really hear that internally, and it makes a hell of a difference. Coming up to some sheep, good old Black Mountain Pass sheep. They just stand there and wait. The suspension on the 296 is really compliant, yet really supportive, and really helps the car's dynamics to turn in really sharply and to be able to hold the road and deliver that 819 brake horsepower. Just coming up to this really sharp corner, and we'll talk a little bit about the steering now, because the steering is just as fast as you'd expect. As you can see here, I'm not having to cross my hands, so it's got that good old fast Ferrari steering. But that's about all you can say about the steering, I'm afraid, because it's very numb when compared to something like a Lotus Emira, say for example, which is very talkative through the steering. You just don't get that sort of feedback. You just don't get that sort of feedback from the 296. It's very numb, which is a real shame, because apart from that, there's a lot to love about the steering of the 296. It really helps the car to turn in, especially when you're driving around these sort of switchbacks on a mountain pass. Fantastic job of hauling in that 819 brake horsepower, really keeping that tamed and ensuring that it delivers it without doing any drastic maneuvers that will put you into danger. Of course, if you slam your foot on the accelerator, you're going to get into problems, but you'd have to be pretty crazy to do that with an 890 brake horsepower supercar that pushes out all that brake horsepower to the rear wheels. An entry-level Ferrari supercar now with 819 brake horsepower. That's absolutely ridiculous. And that 7.45 kilowatt electric motor really does pretty much mitigate any turbo lag. I cannot feel any turbo lag at all. The performance of this 296 is absolutely astonishing. You put your foot down, it just goes, it flies. And the road holding with this Magna Ride suspension is absolutely astonishing. Now, you could have purchased, one of the options was the Fiorano pack, which was £26,000, and that had fixed Multimatic suspension shocks. I think that just wasn't the right option. I think the right option was definitely not to spec that Fiorano pack. And in addition to paying £26,000 for that Fiorano pack, you're looking at £15,000 to £16,000 for the stripe alone. I mean, that's just crazy money. Driving this non-Fiorano packed 296 around Black Mountain Pass really does solidify the fact that implementing the Magnerized suspension setup is definitely the right choice. Unless you're driving the car on a track and really pushing hard, really racing hard on a track, you just do not need that Multimatic fixed damper suspension setup. And you certainly don't need that £26,000 price tag on top of the base £241,000 plus options. Now, there's many reasons why Ferrari implemented a V6. A lot of it was emissions legislation. You can't get away from that. They really had to start implementing hybrid systems in their Ferrari supercars, but also because the size of a V6 is a lot smaller. It enabled them to make the car a lot smaller, a lot more dynamic, and allow the V6 to sit a lot lower. It sits really low, and that really helps with the road holding dynamics of the car, and it really does make a difference. And it helps to keep the weight down as well, because with that hybrid system, the weight of the 296 is only 1,650 kilograms. Now, when you put that into context, it's only 85 kilograms heavier than a 458 Italia. When you consider it's got all that hybrid system, that's quite impressive, and 819 brake horsepower with 1,650 kilograms at curb weight. That's going to deliver brutal performance, and it does. But because the weight isn't crazy, it means that you have that maneuverability and those fantastic supercar dynamics driving on the road. Another impressive statistic for the 296 is that it has a higher power to weight ratio than the Bugatti Veyron. The 296 pushes out 560 brake horsepower per tonne, whereas Bugatti Veyron has 523 brake horsepower per tonne. So in effect, it's faster than a Bugatti Veyron, because power to weight ratio is everything with regards to delivery of performance. And when you consider how heavy your Bugatti Veyron is, and this is 1,650 kilograms, it's obviously going to be a lot more maneuverable. We've got the sun starting to play on our side now, and that V6 Piccolo is really singing. It really does sound incredible. Are you looking to buy a supercar or sports car? We can help you. Rich Reviews makes the luxury car buying process simple and stress-free. Whether you're looking to buy your first supercar or add a car to your collection, our services include expert telephone support calls, pre-purchase inspection, and car collection videos. Rich Reviews takes care of all the details, so you can just sit back and enjoy a hassle-free purchase process. But don't just take our word for it. Check out some of the testimonials from our customers below. Contact us today via the comments below or at the following email address. Thank you for your time. So this 2.9 litre V6 twin turbo hybrid power plant will launch the 296 from 0 to 62 in 2.9 seconds. And it has a top speed in excess of 205 miles per hour. I suspect it's well in excess of 205. Incredible performance. People love the 296. Just listen to that V6. The dynamics of this car, absolutely incredible. This is going to surprise a lot of you, but this is one of the best cars I've ever driven, and I've driven a lot. The fun factor on this is just off the charts. It just turned the steering wheel and it turns in. Put your foot down. It delivers that performance. 819 brake horsepower to the road. Absolutely incredible. I'm currently driving it in sport mode, and I've got the e-Manatino in performance mode. We've got qualifying yet, and I might switch it into qualifying in a moment because the roads are dry now. With regards to the e-Manatino, you've got e-mode, which has 15-mile range, which is just purely electric mode. You've got hybrid mode, which has more of a focus on economy than performance. And then you've got performance mode, which is more performance than economy. And then you've got qualifying mode, which is just full out performance. So let's switch it into qualifying mode. So we're now in qualifying mode. You can hear those twin turbos spin up as well. Absolutely incredible. It uses the same twin turbos as the SF90, but they're smaller, so they spin up faster. And of course, because you've got that 7.45 kilowatt fill-in electric motor, you just don't have any turbo lag. It really hunkers down. The magnerized suspension is something special as well, really adds to the performance dynamics. Those large pop calipers as well really haul down this performance. Really instills confidence. Mountain pass with 819 brake horsepower. Absolutely sublime. Just say thank you very much to the owner of this 296. He's been absolutely golden all the way through. Couldn't do enough for us. Thank you very much. It's very, very kind of you to lend us this stunning Ferrari 296 for us to review. Really, really appreciated. At the beginning of the video, I posed the question, does the 296 have the Ferrari driving essence? Well, I think you've probably gathered by now that yes, it has that all-important Ferrari driving essence in spades. It's just such a shame it was initially beset with teething problems associated with that innovative hybrid system that it struggled to shake off. Maybe now is the time to give the 296 a second chance.